Hello, friend. You're welcome to this discussion on pilot study and reliability tests of questionnaire using SPSS. By the way, the picture you are seeing here is a picture I took with some farmers, my friends, somewhere at Moro local government in Kwara State, Nigeria. This was done when we had a study on maize in 5 states in Nigeria. Before we started this study, we had to do a pilot study in a farm settlement somewhere in Oyo State, which was part of the areas of our coverage for the study. So I want to take you through what it takes or what it means to do a pilot study. But the key interest here is on reliability test of questionnaire. Okay, and I'm going to show you practically how to use SPSS to do it. And after showing you, you can use the available data within your reach to repeat what I am going to show you here. It's something very simple and something you can do as a research person. But taking you through the background is to make sure you understand the theory or behind what we are doing. Okay, so basically when we do a large scale primary database research, it becomes important to do what is called, whether it's feasibility study like they do in business or what we call a pilot study. All right, and that is basically doing that is to help us determine whether this study is possible, help us fine tune our proposed research design. All right, is like a preliminary small scale rehearsal of the main research we want to do. Okay, and to do that, it helps you to determine what actually should be your sample size and how to select the sample size, the criteria for selecting the sample size. Okay, and then the key thing this pilot study helps us to do is to test our research instruments. When you hear research instruments, we are talking about those instruments we are using to collect our data. It includes your questionnaire. So questionnaire is not the only research instrument. It includes your questionnaire. All right. It includes your interview schedule. The interview schedule is like a questionnaire, but we design it to guide what we are going to do. The question will be asking people while interviewing them. And it's a schedule because I may not ask everybody each of the question in the schedule depending on the direction of our discussion. It also includes your data chart. For instance, you have designed a chart where you want to be entering information you are observing or information you are getting from the lab. All right, all of them are your research instruments. Okay, so doing that pilot study, it involves making sure you enter your data and testing that data to be sure is robust enough. And that helps you to draw a flow chart. What do we do at each point of this study to be able to complete the study? So the basic steps in terms of pilot study. Now I want to draw a line between two key concepts: pilot study and pilot survey. Pilot survey is a subset of pilot study. If I'm doing a pilot study and includes that I'm going to gather data that will be analyzed, then a pilot survey becomes important. I will need to do a pilot survey as part of my pilot study. But if I'm doing a pilot study that does not require gathering information, okay, from the field, all right, I could do this pilot study without actually going out to do a pilot survey. Okay, so now pilot study helps you to define clearly your objective. If you want to do it, you define the objective of this study. Make sure you evaluate your sample size and select the appropriate sample size, and then you select the participants for the study. You prepare the material, whether it's questionnaire like we have said before, or your interview schedule, or if you are doing a focus group discussion, of course you may need interview schedule to do that. So you prepare the material you are going to use to collect your data. There was a study we did on looking at the varieties of cassava across Nigeria, and we're trying to trace the parents. We did a DNA DNA test on cassava, and we went to different fields to collect sample. So we had to use a container with silicone material inside to preserve the DNA of that particular leaf we have collected. So that's part of the material you are going to use for your study. But you need to do a pilot survey to be able to determine that will not, for instance, the material you're going to use to collect it will not affect it until you come back from the field. Okay, so you explain the purpose of this study, gather your feedback. Feedback in research is actually a gift. So anytime you get feedback in research, whether you are doing a conference paper presentation or you are doing a project defense for master's, PhD, for first degree, and people give you feedback, appreciate them for the feedback, because feedback is a gift that will strengthen what you are doing. All right. Okay, so then you try to analyze your data. Okay, you analyze your data to be sure it's reliable enough. Especially in this analysis, the first thing you do is what we call reliability test, where you are using questionnaire to check how reliable your questionnaire is. If it is reliable, then you can now deploy it. You see, there's this error a lot of people make. You are doing a study that requires you to interview 400 households, and then you see somebody doing reliability tests using 400 households, data collected from 400 households. That is totally wrong. Reliability test is meant to be done before you interview the 400 households. Some people, what they do is to decide the percentage of that 400 they will interview first. Maybe 10%, maybe 5%, maybe 20%, depending on how large the sample size is. If I'm doing a study of 400 households and I may decide to take 5% of the sample size or even 10%, interview them, bring in their feedback, do what we call reliability test, which I'm going to show you on their feedback to check the consistency of their response. That helps you check whether your questionnaire is reliable or not. If it is acceptable, if it is good, if it's excellent, then you can deploy that questionnaire to interview the rest of the participants in the study. So you don't come and do reliability test after you have ended your study. It is wrong. Yeah, people do it in a way that, okay, we have finished this study, you just choose a part of the thing and quickly do it, but that is not the standard thing. I need you to learn what is standard. All right, so that if you want to maintain the ethics of research, this is what is obtainable. You do your sample survey or pilot survey first, and then get their feedback. Do reliability test. If it is reliable, you may now do the other analysis, whether it's descriptive or inferential analysis, and be sure it gives you what you are watching out for. Then you can deploy that questionnaire to interview the rest of the participants in that study. Okay, if it is a standard study, you may need to report your findings from the pilot study. Based on that report, the funder, the person sponsoring that research, will determine whether it's something they need to scale up or end that study at that stage, so that you don't get wasting your resources. So the basic lesson in pilot study is that it helps you to make necessary adjustments in your study design, in your research material, in your procedure. And once these things are done, and also you keep an eye on the ethical guideline of the study to make sure it is observed. Once these things are done and are satisfactory, then you can start the main study. Okay, now coming to reliability test. Reliability actually indicates how reliable, how dependable, how good or accurately a questionnaire or a set of measures, captures the true value of what you are trying to measure. Okay, for those of us who buy, maybe you buy grain in a particular standardized measure, call it cup. Sometimes you may want to test that cup to see whether it's reliable for you to keep buying with it. That's what we do in terms of reliability. So it actually checks how accurately a tests can measure a particular variable. The less the measurement error, the more reliable that test is. And there are different statistical tools you can use to do that. But the one of interest in this particular training is Chromback Alpha. Chromback's Alpha is what I'm going to show you how to use. I'll also show you how to use other ones like split half and parallel methods. Okay, but this is of interest to us here in this training. Chromback Alpha is a measure of the relationship between a group of questions. Sometimes you look at a standard questionnaire. I've been involved in a in a implementing questionnaire that is about 20 something pages, 28 pages precisely. And we had to interview almost 100 households or farmers, in different parts of Nigeria. We even extended that study to Ghana. And this kind of thing is something you can't venture into without checking the reliability of your questionnaire, because the money involved is huge. If you use a bad questionnaire, a questionnaire that is not reliable, to run such kind of huge investment research, you will lose money. You will lose the credibility of that research will not be there. Okay, so now if you look at this questionnaire, they are structured into badges of questions that helps to develop a particular idea. And that is why you see some questionnaire, they will say session A, socioeconomic, maybe socioeconomic variables. You see another one, it may be talking about financial engagement. It may be talking dependent. So different categories. Okay, so each of these category is what we are testing using Chromback Alpha. To check the consistency of the question, whether they are able to address that mindset. So Chromback's Alpha is therefore a measure of the internal consistency of a scale. A scale is a group of questions put together. Each of those questions are called items. Okay? Each question is an item. Group of questions, item put together becomes a scale. Okay, so this alpha measures the internal consistency of a scale. The strength of the reliability is what it measures. It is basically the correlationship in the answer of this questionnaire that people are giving to you. And it ranges between 0 and 1, like probability. If probability is 1, then it means that thing is sure. If probability is 0, it means that thing will never happen. So the higher the alpha level in terms of this reliability, the more reliable. The closer it is to 1, the more reliable your result. The closer it is to 0, the less reliable your result is. Okay, now the next thing is to show you practically how to do this. That's where I'll spend a little time, but it is something that I want to be keep as simple as possible. If you want to do reliability tests, what you do is simple. You go to SPSS. On the menu bar, you click Analyze. Under Analyze, you see Scale. I'll show you now. Under Scale, you see Reliability Analysis. Once you click it, it will show you your variables of interest. And then you select the scale. The scale, remember, is the group of questions, a particular set of questions. You put it in the box item. And then in that dialog box, you click OK, and then it gives you the result of the reliability. Now, how do you interpret that result? You may see different materials giving different scale, different categories, of this of acceptability. But this is what I prefer to share with you here. But anyone you are using, it may be advisable that you cite the source of the measurement you are using. This particular one from data tab states that if it is below 50%, that's 0.5, it is not acceptable. You don't use that questionnaire. You need to modify it before you try it again and be sure it's okay before you go to the field. If it is more than 50%, but less than 60%, it is poor. If you are using it, just be sure that you are using a very poor questionnaire. If it is more than 60% but less than 70%, that questionnaire is questionable. All right, sorry about that. The questionnaire is questionable. How reliable is this your material becomes the issue of debate, and I'm sure it's something you wouldn't want to do in research when you are doing a study and somebody is asking you, but your instrument is not reliable, so how can we rely on this result? Okay, if you now say people are poor, then that's your result is not reliable. So, but if it is up to 70% but less than 80%, it is acceptable. So when we get results and we are actually measuring poverty level, and we say that a group of people, 80% of them are poor based on this instrument we have used. If the instrument is acceptable, then we can accept that result. If it is up to 80 but less than 70 is good. If it's more than 90, then it is excellent. Okay, so the next thing is to take you to SPSS practical on how to do Cronbach alpha tests. Let me show you something. This is the set of a summary of a questionnaire we had done, and this questionnaire has 7 components. Each of these 7 components has about 5 questions addressing different things. The first one is capital project fund. The next one is reserve fund. Other one is administrative cost fund. Then human capital development. Then infrastructural development, economic empowerment, and regulation. Don't worry, this is not of key interest. But each of them has about 5 questions trying to measure the component, the scale here we are looking at. And look at it here. Okay, you see the capital project fund, there are about 5 questions, maybe using Likert method to measure them. Do you agree with this? How much do you agree with this? Strongly agree, disagree, and all of that. So those in education, they are very familiar with this method. Okay, so each of the components, you see, this is another component. Okay, this is another component with about 5 questions addressing each of those things. I will show you the results we got from the pilot study. Okay, we decided to administer questionnaire to about 10 respondents, and this is the results. 10 respondents, to see how they respond to this matter, and we want to use it to test the reliability of this questionnaire before we go to the field. Okay, and I'm going to show you another method. Like this thing, CPF 1 to CPF 5 actually measures a particular thing, and somebody may want to say that I want to do descriptive analysis, but I don't want to handle them individually. I want to get the aggregate response. What is the descriptive of the aggregate response here? Check my video on on how to do that, and you will see it how to do it in a very simple way. Okay, now but let's continue with our key interest here. Now we said you go to analyze, right, and go to scale. Can you show me where scale is? Is not here, is not here. Are you there? Oh, you have seen it, beautiful. So it's there. Good, congratulations. I know you are intelligent, and that is why I'm happy you are joining in this. I'm sure you are finding value in what I'm doing, and that is why I want you to subscribe to this channel. So from analyze, scale, reliability test is simple. You click on it. Okay, now it will normally give us this dialog box, reliability analysis. If you click on statistics, there are things there that may not concern us, so let's keep it as it is at default. Okay, now if you see, this is our variable names, but it is showing the labels, not the code abbreviation, which can easily help us identify which is which. And I want it to show us that code. You see where I put my cursor? I'll right click on it and click display variable names instead of variable labels. So click on variable names. It shows us that. You see, it's beautiful. It's easy to identify which category is there. So the CPF 1 to 5 make up a scale. So I select it and put it in the item box. And on the item box, the other thing I need to do is just to click OK. It gives us a beautiful result. And this is the Cronbach alpha result. And that is 0.856. In percentage, this actually means 85.6%. So let's look at the other category. Analyze, scale, you already know where it is. Reliability, beautiful. Now let me reset. It takes me back to base. You see, this is what I don't like. I prefer to be seeing the variable names instead of the labels. So I'll show you how to do it so that I won't need to go back to this again. I'll right click on this and say show me the variable names. Then I'll click the next one, the reserve fund. I click OK, and then I click OK. It gives me a reliability test for that one. That's 84.4%. Okay, now analyze. Observe what I told you. I'm not going to use the other method. I will not reset. I decide to highlight everything here. Control A. I'll move it back to this main box and then scroll down so it's highlighted, so it shows me the next set. Okay, with the variable names. I click OK. It gives me that point. Now you see there's something called here scale label. I can decide to label this my scale. What are the scales we have here? Go back to the beginning. So that thing is administrative costs. Okay, if I select that name and put it there, the system will give me that result with the name. If I don't, it will appear at default saying all variables. So I click it here and say name it, and then click OK. So it names it that the scale is administrative cost, that session. You see the session I did not name, it came with a default name, all variables were included. All right, so the next we do is which one? Scale, the same thing. I select all, move back, scroll down. Okay, select the 5 questions, enter it there. Okay, just for convenience sake, I could call it HCD. I know it's human capital development. I click OK. It gives me the reliability, that's 72.4%. All right, then the next one, scale, reliability test. We're almost done, just be patient. Thank you for your time. So I select all, no, this side, and then move it back. Check where we stopped. Oh, you see, so we actually omitted something. Let's check. How many variables did we select? That's 5. Okay, so let's hope we are good with it. So scale. All right, so okay, beautiful. So all of them are there. So scale. Then the next is ID. 5 of the questions, I put it there. It's not compulsory your question must be 5, please. It depends on the session. You do this session by session. And what we have here is 70.4%. You do it session by session. And so if somebody is asking me to report the reliability of my instrument, what is the reliability on aggregate? I will give you the average of the reliability. The average becomes the reliability. The average of the sessions becomes the reliability of the instrument. But you test this Chromebacks Alpha session by session. Okay, that scale by scale. This is 78.2%. We should be doing the last one now, if I'm right. Remember, we didn't change this. So if you must label, make sure you are consistent in reflecting change where necessary. And so SR, the statutory regulation. So if we must label, then we put it this way and click OK. So that's all the results we have. Permit me to return this result to Excel and get the average, and then we cap it up there. This is where we have the list of the items. The first one, the results, call this reliability test in percent. Okay, and so I have 85.6%. all right, let's check the next one. The next one is 80.4% is there. All right, 80.4%. Where is that? Our Excel sheet. 80.4%. All right, I hope you are not bored. We're almost done. but I'm happy you are learning this, and not just learning how to do reliability. I would have shown you how to do reliability in less than 5 minutes, but if you don't understand the theory behind it, you just be repeating the error everybody's making. So anywhere you are and people are getting it wrong, in all humility, you can throw in your correction, but not in a way of pulling anybody down. Somebody said that PhD is pull him down or pull her down. If people have done the right thing, why not? They should move on. Okay, beautiful. So, the next one, the next before the last, 78.2%. Okay, and then the last one. Okay, yeah, that's the last one. There is 72.5%. So what do we do with this information now? What do we do with this information? What we do is to type average here. Okay, because the average is what I need. Then if I select the results, I'll come to where you have summation here. It's not summation that I need. What I need is average. I'll click the arrow down and click average. It gives me the average. So what's the average? The average is 76.8. So this research instrument on the average reliability is 76.8. Where does that fall on this measurement scale? 76 is between this and this. So this questionnaire is acceptable, so we can actually use it to run our analysis, except where we find something we think we need to improve on. Otherwise, you use it and run your analysis, and that becomes a very good result you will be obtaining from the main study you'll be doing. On that note, I want to say a very big thank you for spending this moment with us. I do hope you find value in this discussion. Do subscribe if you have not subscribed, and feel free to share this research training with other friends and colleagues. My interest and my happiness is adding value in your research skill. Thank you